Hello there and welcome to this introductory presentation of the Fundamentals module number 9 in International Marketing. My name is Ulf Johansson. I'm sorry I can't be there with you to present this in person at the module you are at the moment, but I hope this presentation and the material that I load up on the web page for you is sufficient information. If not, you know where to find me. Now, why trend watching? Some of you working in business-to-business sector, you might think, what could the use for me be of exploring retailer trends and consumer trends? And that is a fair question. I think for those of you in the business-to-consumer sector, it's more obvious what you can learn from this type of focus. But let's look a little bit at the relevance for the business-to-business people in this one. It's my view that many business-to-business organizations are too concerned with their closest customer. They don't look further than that down the line. So what I hope this type of module will help you to do is to become more proactive by being more concerned with what happens for your customer's customer and eventually the end consumer. What are the trends in the retail sector that is the closest to the consumer and in the consumer level of the market? By having a focus further down the value chain, I think there is a chance to pick up a more proactive rather than reactive view of looking at the market. And in general, the module will be, we will look at trends, we will try to find trends while we are in London, but it's also very much about learning a method, a way of doing this. It's not an easy task to do this in London in 3 days, but it is a possible task. It will be very demanding as the assignment we work with is very vague. So it will be a demanding task. In general, there are very few guidelines on how to do trend watching. It's a matter of applying methods, but it's also training awareness and the ability to observe and deduct from what you see. Now, why go to London? I think one of the obvious reasons for going to London is obviously that it's quite close. New York would be an alternative if we traveled east. Tokyo, Seoul, Shanghai would also be alternatives. But it's very close, and there are many innovators and early adopters in London. The trends that come to Sweden and other parts of Europe often first come to London. So when looking for consumer trends and retail trends, London is the place to be. The overarching purposes for this module is to understand how to be aware of and understand trends and social change taking place in a market. What social and consumer cultural changes are taking place and how do we find and identify these? What methods can be used to become aware of social trends? And how can these methods be used in different settings and industries? The latter purpose, or the last purpose, is also the post-assignment from this module. We try to meet these purposes by working to find important retail and consumer culture trends that are and will be important for the retail and consumer area the next couple of years. And we also sharpen the purpose a bit as I've already booked a time for a seminar at Center for Retail Research at Lund University. There's also a time slot. We can change that time slot, but we try to set a time slot, and we're already in our calendar that the group or representatives of the group, a couple of you, will present your findings to an audience that we invite to come and listen to this. Hopefully that sharpens the purpose and puts some pressure on actually producing and doing some good work in London. Now, to look for trends, to be trend watching or trend spotting, what does that mean? Well, it means that we are looking for trends that have a high impact on retail and consumer and on consumers. But we are both looking for the certain trends, but more specifically around the uncertain trends. The certain trends are those that in the adoption cycle already have reached the early majority. We can see it very clearly. So what we are really looking for is the uncertain things. The things that are really weak signals. Trends, as you know, is some type of noticeable change that can actually be noticed. We can see more or less of something. Trends also have a certain persistence over time. But maybe more importantly for our purpose, it's interesting to talk about the different levels of trends. And these different levels is giga trends, mega trends and micro trends. The two first type of trends are the really global, structural, social, cultural transformations. These giga trends, many of them, individualism, authenticity, is not trends from the 1990s, it's trends from the 17th century actually. Individualism is something that came with Reformation in the 17th century. But these bigger trends, these trends on higher levels, also have manifestations of themselves in what we call the micro trends. These are local, can maybe also be global, but short range phenomena and can change over time faster. Let me give you some examples of this. Authenticity, like I said, is a giga trend. It's been going on for a couple of 100 years. At the mega level we see manuality, we see things like making your own sausage, actually trying to grow things close by, trying to put your own touch on things. And if we go to the micro, you can for instance see it in handwritten copy as a way of trying to produce things that are more authenticity and try to speak to our need for authenticity. Looking at urbanization is also a giga trend. It has some mega implications. I mean, one is single person households that comes with more urbanized areas, more and more people living in urban areas. It also has some micro manifestations like food for single people, single dishwasher, single holiday would be one thing that is a manifestation on a micro level for the giga trend of urbanization. And on an overall level you can see that there are some giga and mega trends that we can see influence society on a general level. Everything from conscious capitalism to urbanization to individualization to neo-green society to globalization to authenticity like we talked about. To demographic trends of different kinds, technology at the moment, digitalization of everything, the new conservatism, feminism, and going from owning to sharing. You can probably find some more giga and global or giga and mega trends, but these are trends that are at the moment you can see in retail and consumer trends. But the focus in London is not to try to find new giga and mega trends. You will be looking for micro trends, the manifestation of giga and mega trends here and now, and that are observable in retail outlets and in consumer behavior. And when you do this observing of micro trends, it's good to remember that everything that happens once can never happen again, but everything that happens twice will surely happen a third time. We have a very... I think you can have a very general principle when it comes to looking for trend and micro trends. 1, 2, 3 is the way I always count. If you've seen something a third time, you know you have something. You know you have a trend of a different kind. And this is the principle some of these who have been working for this for many years. For those of you that understand Swedish, you can always listen to Spanarna in the Swedish channel, radio channel number 1. Been going on since 1988, and their principle is 1, 2, 3, then you have a trend. And we will be looking at retail and consumer trends. You have to remember that retail is everything that is sold to private persons in smaller quantities. And retail is also, of course, both online and in-store nowadays. And we will be looking at in-store, but as we will see, in-store is becoming more and more heavily influenced by what happens online. And retail is a very diverse sector, everything from food and grocery to different kinds of durable goods, textile, clothing, footwear, electronics, furniture, also to banks and restaurants, and that is if we include services. One of the things that characterize retail is that it's often a mix of goods and services, where we see that the service part is increasing to get away from the commodity type of competition that only competing with goods gives. There are different formats to retail. There is also different ownership and governance forms for different types of retail. And like I said, internet and e-tailing is a driving force that also forms what we see in store. Looking at the preliminary agenda, now again saying that it is indeed a preliminary agenda. When you arrive, some of you arrived the day before, but those of you who arrived on the 3rd, we start 10:30 sharp in the conference room at Citizen M. There we will go setting the stage. I will repeat some of the stuff we've talked about on this presentation, but also some new things. We will be focusing the first day, the first hours before your visit to the experts, on food stores and trends in food stores. We spend about 20 to 30% of our incomes as consumers on food. So that is one important big sector of retail where there's lots of things happening that you can observe in food stores. The rest of the 3rd will be spent, again, we are working in smaller groups with visiting to some experts on different sectors when it comes to retail trends and consumer trends. On the 4th, it's again setting the stage for trend watching observation, again in smaller groups. I will send you out on 4 different routes. I will divide the group into 4 groups, and you will be traveling all day, looking at things that we have planned along the route, to observe and see what you can see what's happening in retail. And then we are starting from there when you come back, which is fairly late in the afternoon. What do we know so far? We start exchanging impressions you've got, and that is what we continue to build on the 5th. What does it all mean? Finalizing the list of important trends as far as we can get on the 5th of June. And then it's departure back home on late on the 5th. These are some of the people I'm in contact with for you to meet as experts. Some of them are finalized, some are not finalized yet. There are some really interesting persons for you to meet, but also some interesting organizations to meet. And again, this is something we do on the 3rd of June. And you do it in smaller groups. So we're not taking the whole group around to visit experts. So you will visit in smaller groups. Again, on the right-hand side of this little figure, you have some of the things that are in the preparation. I've put together a couple of pages of links that I want you to take part of, that links and talks about trends in retail and in consumer culture. There is also some reading before this module on methods and also on trends in general. On the left-hand side, you have all the things that we're going to do in London while we are there. Visit retail outlets with different kinds in different areas, meeting experts. Also traveling around in London, looking at the outdoor space and indoor space. And also observing behaviour with consumers as we are in London for a couple of days. So all this is the input for trying to find out important retail and consumer trends. As for any module, there are preparations. There is nothing different about this module compared to the other modules you've taken in your executive MBA program. One of the most challenging thing about trying to take on a very vague task as this is. There is no formula for doing this. We can only give you a couple of tools, but then it's up to you. And one of the challenges is to keep your mind open, not have too many preconceived notions about what to find. Another challenge is that you often don't see things you don't like. You tend to see the things you like yourself. But there is also a challenge to see those things. And also, I believe what I see, or I see what I believe. You have to think about what you believe, because that is my strong opinion. That is what you're going to see. And there is a challenge in that, in seeing new things, as we tend to see the things we already believe in. There are lots of experiments done showing that. So that's a real challenge when we are in London, the short time we have there. Generally, trend watching is about being curious, being present, being open to learn. So what I want you to do before we meet, and we're going to practice this in London again, is to reflect by yourself and also with somebody in the group. How am I when I'm curious, present, and open to learn? How do I notice this state of mind in myself? I think that's very important, because in London we need to find ways to get to that state of mind in order for us actually to see what's going on. There are a million things going on. But can we pick them up? Can we have such a curious, present mind and be so open to learn so we see those things? And also the last thing to reflect around in, how does other people notice that you are curious, present and open to learn? So they can remind you to get in that state. Also, this is it is about general learning from meetings with other people. Sometimes we just go into meetings and expect other people to provide us with all the information we need. I think the other way around, and I think you need to think the other way around as well. How do I create a good meeting with other persons? How do I create the necessary openness and relationship to those I meet? What can I do? How can I help other persons in the meeting to be open and willing to share? And I think it's important to have a focus on what you can do, not what others should do. Very often we put ourselves in a situation where we become the victims of a situation. I think that's the wrong way to look at it. Look at what you can do, how you can prepare to make it a good meeting. Especially here, I'm thinking about the couple of hours you will have on the 3rd with people who know very much about retail and consumer trends. How can you make the most out of that? These experts will be prepared to have a meeting with you, an informal meeting, where you are in the driving seat. So don't expect them to have a PowerPoint presentation for you, because that's not what's going to happen. It's about how you can create a good meeting with them. So, those were some general preparations. Please don't forget those. I think those are very important. How to create an open mind, and also how to do yourself to make a good meeting. What can you do? What should you do? Some practical reminders now. You need to bring computer, you need to bring camera, you need to bring your phone. If you have a good camera in your phone, you obviously don't also need to bring a camera. But please also provide or bring connections for your phone so you can transfer photos you take with your phone. This is extremely important as we're going to work a lot in smaller groups. So in order to make it visual to other people what you have seen, you need to take photos, and we need to be able to transfer it so everybody can see it. So photos is one way that we're going to work. So you need to provide and bring technical equipment so you can actually take photos, but also download photos so you can share them. Bring clothes and shoes for a lot of walking, but also for a nice dinner, depending on, we all have different clothing styles and clothing preferences. So bring a little bit for everything, I think, but especially make sure that as we're going to travel around London, lot of walking, lots of time being out and about, please bring clothes and shoes that make that possible. London is nowadays an increasingly a city where people bike a lot. That's one of the most obvious trends that you can see in London that weren't there before the Olympic Games. You can rent bikes very easily. There's a Barclay, a rental hire almost everywhere. For the Thursday, and maybe also depending on how you want to travel on the Wednesday, that is an alternative for traveling around, and it goes much faster than walking, and you can also see more that way by biking instead of going on the underground. It can be good if you plan to cycle when you are on the routes, to bring a bicycle helmet. And also remember, London is the home of rain. It is based on a small island in the middle of two cold seas. So even if it's June and it feels like it's summer, it may not be summer in London, and we are going to be outdoors anyway. So bring stuff so you can be outside even if it rains. You will get an Oyster card with some pounds on it, but you need to bring money for transportation or cards so you can pay for your transportation, and some meals you will pay for yourself as well when you're out and about. I also want you to provide me with groups for the 3rd of June. These are 6 groups I want. These are the groups that are going to visit food stores and also are going to visit experts in these 6 different groups. Hopefully you decide them, you divide by some mix-max, so you maximize the difference in the groups. And that's important, and I trust somebody communicate the groups to me. I also want you to write 5 to 7 sentences about yourself, about your interest in retail and consumer trends. Together with the group division, I need these 5 to 7 sentences no later than the 15th of May. And that is important that I get it then, not later than that. Because these texts will be sent to the experts that you will be visiting on the afternoon of the 3rd. So they know who comes to visit them. Okay. So some very general preparations in terms of reading and trying to find ways to have an open mind, but also some very specific things when it comes to the preparations for this module. Okay, I just want to close with saying that if you have any more questions, you know where to find me. And if I don't hear anything from you, I'm looking forward to working with you in London and meeting you in London. Thanks very much. Bye.